Chapter 8. Get Funded. Looking for potential funding resources is a big step in the right direction, especially if you know that you don't personally have the funds needed to enroll in your preferred program. Don't let something like finances deter you from reaching your goal. There are many people out there today who owe their qualifications to student funding programs. Top tip: don't overburden yourself with student loans. If you can avoid them and find alternative funding options, that is always going to be the more advisable course of action. If you'll be expected to pay this funding back in part or in whole, be sure that you can find a suitable position to cover your needs as well as the repayments. The cost of living is something that varies in different cities and countries. Usually, universities will provide prospective students with information on the cost of living in the city and the university's available financial support on their website. There have been numerous instances where a student's lack of funding has made it difficult to continue their education, and universities are aware of this. They're in the business of educating people, no matter their financial background. And this is why they try to offer as much support to promising students as possible. One thing that you should be aware of is that they will most likely have stringent requirements for potential students who seek funding from them. In many cases, your academic record or work experience will be a defining factor in whether or not you are viewed as desirable enough as a prospective student to receive funding. In other cases, they might waive this requirement if there's sufficient promise that you'll be able to pay part of the funding back in monetary terms or by way of contributing to departmental research. Let's look at this in a bit more detail. Loans and grants. Loans and grants may be available for students. These grants may be for a specific field, a particular college, city, or country. Some may only be available to a specific group of students. As mentioned, some of these grants are reimbursable, and some are gratuitous. Some are provided by the university, some by the country's government, and some by charities. Make sure to look for different types of available grants during the university selection process. Never be optimistic about your financial situation, and do not get your hopes up about receiving financial aid until you're absolutely certain you will receive it. In other words, don't book your ticket until that funding reflects as confirmed. Ultimately, your options in terms of funding include full funding. This is where another party covers all of your funding needs, including tuition, levies, living expenses, and more. Partial funding. This is where another party covers part of your study expenses. In most cases, this will cover only one of the elements listed above, such as tuition. And self-funding. This is where you pay for all of your educational needs and your living expenses. If you'll be pursuing your education abroad, one thing to keep in mind is that because you'll be in a foreign country, away from family and friends, it won't be as easy to overcome a financial emergency. Moreover, it might take a few days for funds to be processed and deposited into your account if you need someone from back home to bail you out of a financial emergency. If you're moving abroad to further your studies and your parents or another home-based family member will be funding your studies in whole or in part, try to get an account with low foreign usage charges. If you're from Egypt and have a bank account there, for example, inform the bank of your intention to study abroad. Ask them if there are foreign transactions, such as ATM withdrawals, permitted on your current account, or if they can open an additional account with such abilities. This way, when you're in a financial bind, your family at home in Egypt can deposit money into that account, and you will have instant access to it by using your card wherever else in the world you are. Side note: if you're receiving funding from the university of your choice, they might require you to have a local bank account for the duration of your studies. Keep both your home-based and local accounts active so that you can have multiple options for financial assistance when you need it most. Tuition and living expenses. There are many instances where you might receive funding for your tuition, but not your living expenses. If the university does not pay for your expenses, you must have a solid plan for financing yourself while you're committed to your studies. Do not take financial risks while continuing your education. If for any reason you have to temporarily or permanently halt your studies in the middle of the program, you will have lost both your time and the money you previously spent. In many countries, students are also allowed a limited work permit alongside their study visas. This is to allow international students to take up part-time work to help fund their lifestyles while they're enrolled in a program. Make sure to research the financial conditions and the possibility of finding student jobs in the country of your choosing. Tuition fees vary according to different disciplines and different universities. These costs are also listed on the website of each university for both undergraduate and postgraduate programs. They also break it down for domestic and international students. Here is a list of options that you can pursue in terms of funding. Aid from your university. Grants from your local government, companies, or charities. Program-specific scholarships. Fellowships. Student loans. Work-study jobs. End of chapter checklist. Tick off each box when you feel that you know the answers to the questions with the utmost certainty. Do I have the necessary funds to further my studies? If not, are there funding options available to me? What are the prerequisites for those funding options? If I need to pay this funding back, will I realistically be able to do so? For more information on funding options, visit our website, radviser.com.